Springfield's Talk 1041. Good Thursday morning. My name is Nick Reed. Broadcasting live, streaming live as well. You can find us on the KSGF app, ksgf.com. Of course, our podcast as well, a number of different places, including our own site and our own app, but then Spotify, iTunes, and I know a lot of other places as well, because randomly when I mention this, people will say, well, I get it from, Saturn, this, that, I'm like, places I've never even heard of before. And I always wonder, I'm like, how does one find these odd places to get podcasts? Yesterday, I had in my mind been planning on talking a bit about terrorism in the context of 9/11. And, of course, yesterday with what I characterize as a terrorist attack for reasons I'll explain. Yesterday afternoon, we were, finishing up with a lunch bunch, and I'm on my way home, and I get a call, and, did you hear, just like so many of you, and I hadn't at the time, and so, so many of you, glued to following what's going on, and eventually getting the news, which seemed to be essentially led by the announcement from President Trump. Though I know just the news, almost an hour, it seemed like, ahead of everyone else, had already reported that there were 3 officials confirming that he had passed on, and then it was after that President Trump made that announcement, and then he would also make an address from the Oval Office, and we'll play that coming up. I'm not going to play a tremendous amount of audio. I'm going to play a little bit of audio. Charlie Kirk, someone that we've carried his program here on the station in the evenings, and I know he has some of his Turning Point USA chapters and some of the schools and 1 or 2 of the universities in the area he's visited. He was just a year or 2 ago at MSU by invitation, like he was on college campuses all over. And, there's this, we have observed political partisan violence, which, by the way, there's a difference between political violence and partisan violence. And that is somewhat relevant for reasons I'll touch on in a bit. But the difference would be political violence is, someone might seek to kill an elected official not because they're Republican or Democrat, not for ideological reasons, but, they're just maybe mad about, they screwed them over, or they're just looking to find a random elected official because all government is bad, that sort of thing, versus, Republicans are evil, and so I'm going to find Republicans to kill. Donald Trump is a dictator. Donald Trump is going to cancel elections, and so I'm going to seek to kill that side of the political aisle. That's partisan. That is picking someone who is an elected official specifically because they are a political party or political persuasion, not simply because they're an elected official. And the reason I mention that difference is you may notice, and I think it's somewhat interesting, you will hear some of the mainstream media reference, they try to make it seem like this isn't a problem coming from the left, that this is, it's just all over the spectrum, that it's the overall rhetoric, which they, of course, tagged to Donald Trump, which feeds into these assassins' ideology and mindset and their rationale for taking out the people that the media try to claim are the reason that the rhetoric has gotten out of control. Because before Donald Trump came along, everyone got along in politics. There was no name calling. No one was ever called a racist or a bigot or a homophobe or a science denier or you hate children. None of that occurred. Everyone got along just fine. And then Donald Trump came along and made things nasty. And so because of that, now there's political violence. That's the way they portray it. And I've noticed a couple of times, in fact, there was a reference by Anderson Cooper trying to continue that false narrative. And he referenced, the shooting in Minnesota recently. And I think that the average person hears that and believes, and he's not the first one that's referenced the Minnesota shooting, that is referencing the trans shooter that shot white Christian children. What they're actually referring to is from back in June, that guy that was arrested for killing a state senator, and he kind of went on that rampage, and he had a whole list of people that were involved in government in some sort of capacity that he was going to kill. Because in their mind, that's the same thing, but that's somebody that's targeting Democrats for partisan reasons. But we still don't even know that. And this is where, again, the difference comes in. You can be, and I've looked, you would think that at this point, that particular shooter, any time that these occurrences happen, if it was somebody that was a Trump supporter and had manifestos and so forth, something that was partisan, that information would get released. And who knows, maybe that shooting was partisan. Maybe that is somebody who just hated the Democrat ideology, and that is why he sought out those people. But what it also appears is that he did some work and interacted in certain capacities with government. And so what could have occurred is he just, for whatever reason, felt he had gotten screwed over or had sour relationships, was targeting the people with whom he had associations, and given Democrat control in Minnesota, those happened to be the people that he ended up shooting. We don't know the answer to that. And I suppose that's going to come out at trial, because motive is obviously something that you need to present at trial. But there's an attempt to conflate, to kind of throw that in to make it seem as if, conservatives do it too, they target. But there is a difference between partisan political violence or terrorism and political terrorism or political violence. There's a difference there. It doesn't mean one's any better than the other, but there is a distinction. And it's a significant one. Because when Donald Trump, when Steve Scalise, when Brett Kavanaugh, when children at Christian schools, be it in Tennessee or in Minnesota, are targeted and they are killed, we learn based off of past writings or manifestos or letters to the editor. That's partisan. Those are individuals that in their letters to the editor, like the Bernie Sanders campaign volunteer that shot Republican Congressman Scalise and a couple of others, they use the talking points of the Democrats. They use the same verbiage. Their rationale for trying to kill Republicans is a rationale that they receive, that they get, that they are parroting from the Barack Obamas and the Elizabeth Warrens and the Rachel Maddows and these people on the left. And it's amazing how fair conservatives will try and be, because despite clearly, odds are this was partisan, you will still have conservatives note with caution, we don't know for sure the motive. Attempting to be as fair as possible. While you have some on the left, even members of, you have Elizabeth Warren, you have Pritzker, governor of Illinois. They're laying blame. They're assigning blame to Trump. It's Trump's fault that one of his, biggest supporters was killed. Blame the victim. Oh, she was raped. What was she wearing? Those girls that don't wear short skirts don't get raped. That's the approach that the left is taking, along with celebration, many of them. All right, so we'll get to much of this. Now, there are a number of other things I do want to talk about today as well. So, and there is going to be, rightfully so, a tremendous amount of Charlie Kirk reflection, free speech reflection on the fact that it was, this is 9/11, a day in which evil human beings took action in order to try to scare American people into behaving differently. And the fact that we saw the exact same thing occur yesterday, which is what makes it terrorism. Now, of course, again, don't know for sure. But generally speaking, when this sort of action is taken, it is an attempt to terrorize people into different behavior, into compliance, into behaving in a manner in which the person who took the action wants you to behave. And I think largely what most people recognize is the motivating factor behind that is to shut your mouth, is to stop this bipartisan, this willingness to sit down and have discussions, because that is the most effective thing that Charlie Kirk did. Some people would, he'd have the thing set up, prove me wrong. And some people found that to be offensive, like it was aggressive. In their minds, will prove me wrong. No, that was an invitation to have people who have different perspectives have a platform to offer it up. Instead of doing what oftentimes occurs with left-wing speakers or these panels where they simply want people to praise them, they want a friendly audience, he took the opposite approach. His banner didn't say, "Tell me why I'm right." His approach was, "Tell me why I'm wrong. Prove me wrong. Let's have that discussion." And the irony of it is, the universities should be the place that is not only the safest, but the most welcome, the most encouraged. This idea, and there's the timing of it all is pretty incredible, of the massive number of young people who not only don't believe, and these are primarily people on the left that believe political violence is okay. And again, I would say partisan is what they really mean. But they are opposed to free speech on campuses. Do you know how upside down that is? Do you know what a failure that is of the university culture? An absolute failure. That is like having a women's shelter and a majority of the people running it think it's okay to knock your wife around if she gets out of line. To have the university culture be one in which you have a disproportionately high number of people with the belief system that you should not have the free exchange of ideas, that you should not entertain challenging ideas and be able to debate your own ideas. If the university system really truly cared and did what it was supposed to do, that would be almost a litmus test to be there. If you do not believe in challenging ideas, aka learning, you should not be on a university campus. University campuses shouldn't have them there. Again, if you're hiring for a women's shelter and on the application you have do you think it's okay to beat your wife? And somebody says yes. Would you hire them? Would you allow them to volunteer? Would you have them bring them into that culture? Of course not, because it's the antithesis of the culture. Yet to have all of these people on university campuses, including professors and administrators, that don't believe in challenging ideas and discussing ideas that are challenging and being open to new ideas, That is a massive sin and a massive failure. And any university president that is ethical would immediately take the temperature of the culture in that regard on their university campus. And if you don't have 100% rate of people who, yes, accept that that's why we're here and that's what we need to be doing, then you should fix it or leave, open the seat for someone who will. All right, Pyramid Roofing Company, text line 417-447-KSGF, latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today it'll be sunny and hot with a high near 94. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 67. And for your Friday and Saturday, sunny and hot with a high near 96.
I want to play two bits of audio here. I want to play Donald Trump yesterday, I guess it was last night, addressing the assassination of free speech advocate Charlie Kirk. And then I also want to play, just because I thought he did a really great job, the governor of Utah. Did he? I mean,
He did a really good job.
it was a polar. I don't. This is such, particularly given the magnitude of what has occurred, such a silly thing to nitpick over. But for whatever reason, it really bothers me whenever there is a statement that's being made and it's read off his cell phone. And that's what the FBI did right before he. Now he spoke completely off script. I forgot who spoke first, and I think they had a piece of paper. And I know it's silly. Like, what's the difference between it being printed off on a piece of paper versus reading it off his cell phone? I don't know. To me, it just is somehow. And I know that's irrational.
I mean, a level of preparedness.
Well, I think that's part of it. Or even it's like you can't even bother to print it off. Like, you can't take that step. It just, it looks, it just looks lazy to me. And I get it. I understand. That's where we are. But when that guy from the FBI got up and he was just reading off his phone, it just seems so, I don't know, unprofessional, I guess. But I think I'm just kind of weird when it comes to that. Probably most people don't think anything of it. The governor of, though, Utah, you could tell this was speaking straight from the soul, this guy. And so I want to play that as well. But first, President Donald Trump.
To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight, all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror. Charlie was a patriot who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and the country that he loved so much, the United States of America. He fought for liberty, democracy, justice, and the American people. He's a martyr for truth and freedom, and there's never been anyone who was so respected by youth. Charlie was also a man of deep, deep faith, and we take comfort in the knowledge that he is now at peace with God in heaven. Our prayers are with his wife, Erica, the two young, beloved children, and his entire family, who he loved more than anything in the world. We ask God to watch over them in this terrible hour of heartache and pain. This is a dark moment for America. Charlie Kirk traveled the nation, joyfully engaging with everyone interested in good faith debate. His mission was to bring young people into the political process, which he did better than anybody ever, to share his love of country and to spread the simple words of common sense. On campuses nationwide, he championed his ideas with courage, logic, humor, and grace. It's a long past time for all Americans and the media to confront the fact that violence and murder are the tragic consequence of demonizing those with whom you disagree day after day, year after year, in the most hateful and despicable way possible. For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others, radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives. Tonight, I ask all Americans to commit themselves to the American values for which Charlie Kirk lived and died, the values of free speech, citizenship, the rule of law, and the patriotic devotion and love of God. Charlie was the best of America, and the monster who attacked him was attacking our whole country. An assassin tried to silence him with a bullet, but he failed, because together we will ensure that his voice, his message, and his legacy will live on for countless generations to come. Today, because of this heinous act, Charlie's voice has become bigger and grander than ever before, and it's not even close. May God bless his memory. May God watch over his family. And may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
President Trump from, I believe that was from the Oval Office last night regarding the political assassination of free speech advocate Charlie Kirk. We will got to get a traffic update, and of course, as you can imagine, rightfully so, well earned. Tributes, memories, words, all day, and you'll hear so much of that all day. So I'm trying to be particular. I don't want to just do what everyone else is going to do the whole day, not because trying to be different, but it can get redundant after a point. But I do want to play one other bit of audio, because I guess I could play 3 hours worth of audio of people giving tributes. But the president I thought was pretty important, but also the governor of Utah yesterday just I think I don't even know if was he at that point known to have died. I can't even recall. It was very soon after.
I believe so.
Okay, yeah, it was very soon after. But I felt that he just had some fantastic words. So that coming up next. I'm Nick Reed. Got traffic moments away. Tomorrow is Friday. We will be broadcasting live from Scramblers Friday Road Show. I do want to get to some of your text messages coming up, your thoughts about, motivations and impact of the political assassination of free speech advocate Charlie Kirk. But for the traffic, yesterday, and I'm really genuinely going to tie this in, and I got home. I was on my way home when I learned about Charlie Kirk being shot, and usually I'd sit in front of the television. But instead, the weather was relatively nice, needed to water the lawn, and so instead of going back and forth, in and out, I'm just able to utilize that outdoor living space that Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor developed and put into place. And it just, when you have that additional living space, it is really, for us, ours is much better, greater value, greater usage than if we had built a whole nother room onto the house. It's a great addition if you have any sort of yard that all you use it for is to mow. That is what it's just there for that purpose. And you think about how much more you could use it for, and that is when you get home and you got a little work to do, even, or you just feel like getting outside, and it is so accommodating to do so. I recommend that any thoughts of doing that, you use Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor. They're fantastic people. They're just good people, and they do an incredible job. You can see much of their work before and afters, reviews from other people other than just me at hunterhardscapes.com, which you can also get to through Nick's endorsements at ksgf.com.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today it'll be sunny and hot with a high near 94. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 67. And for your Friday and Saturday, sunny and hot with a high near 96.
I'm going to share your text messages in a moment. First, I did want to play for those of you that missed it or maybe needed to hear it again. Sarah made a comment that it was one of the few people, or maybe the only, and I concur with this, individuals that, I don't know, it's just what he said and the way he said it yesterday that made me feel better.
Yeah.
I think just, and
it
I
was
don't
the
even know
only
if
thing that
better is...
remotely, I mean, just even remotely,
It-
positive's not the right word either.
It
but
almost, it gave this little, I don't know if satisfied is the word, you just felt, I mean, I guess better is the best word. Now, I don't want to overplay this to where people are expecting something amazing, but this is yesterday, the governor of Utah regarding the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on this dark and tragic occasion. I want to thank our law enforcement officers who are leading this investigation, starting with Chief Long and his response here with the UVU Police Department. We're grateful for your leadership and your team. And again, to the speakers that you've just heard from who are co-leading this investigation. I also want to recognize Sheriff Mike Smith, who has been an invaluable partner as this investigation moves forward. I've been in touch with President Trump, with FBI Director Kash Patel. We are completely aligned with our state and federal partners as we work through this case. Now, this is a dark day for our state. It's a tragic day for our nation. And I want to be very clear that this is a political assassination. We are celebrating 250 years of the founding of this great nation. That founding document, the Declaration of Independence, that this great experiment on which we embarked together 250 years ago, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. The first one of those is life. And today, a life was taken. Charlie Kirk was first and foremost a husband and a dad to two young children. He was also very much politically involved, and that's why he was here on campus. Charlie believed in the power of free speech and debate to shape ideas and to persuade people. Historically, our university campuses in this nation and here in the state of Utah have been the place where truth and ideas are formulated and debated. And that's what he does. He comes on college campuses and he debates. That is foundational to the formation of our country, to our most basic constitutional rights. And when someone takes the life of a person because of their ideas or their ideals, then that very constitutional foundation is threatened. Now, we have a person of interest in custody. The investigation is ongoing. But I want to make it crystal clear right now, to whoever did this, we will find you. We will try you. And we will hold you accountable to the furthest extent of the law. And I just want to remind people that we still have the death penalty here in the state of Utah.
When he was talking about full extent of the law, I was like, I hope he says that.
Yeah.
That was some of that was it was satisfying. A friend of mine, as we struggled to figure out what it was about the governor of Utah, that emotion that was connecting, and a friend of mine said at peace, and I think that is some of it. You felt a little bit better because someone in a position of authority got it. I think it's like it was all clear and he got it. Yes. And what it was important, of course, are the personal aspects of, the human being, Charlie Kirk, but also the notation that, make no mistake about this. Yes, this is political terrorism is what this is. And to have, because, people come to the podium and they do that as a person in a position of authority, and they are speaking to us, and we're there waiting to hear what they have to say. And so often, frankly, we hear crap. So often we hear emptiness. Just the same sort of rhetoric. And for average Americans who see what happened, who understand what this really is, and for a person to come out that's really this guy's introduction to the vast majority of Americans, because we don't know the governor of Utah, and to just nail it like that, I think I know for me it really resonated. And it wasn't over the top. It wasn't, this sort of rousing rally thing. And maybe that's part of the reason it just really hit on point, because it was exactly where it needed to be. Nothing more, nothing less. And I don't know. I liked it. And I think he's kind of, I know it's Utah. and he's a Republican, but I think he's kind of a lefty. I remember when he was running that there were a number of things that were pretty to the left, even for lefty Republicans. And so, it's just it. This isn't some crazy right winger by any stretch, from what I remember, but it was very appropriate. Listen. I've heard comments made. In fact, yesterday, Greg Gutfeld, he live on air dropped the F-bomb. And it was basically a message to those on the left who think that this is going, the point here is to silence people that disagree with them. The point is, and not just that, that's why this wasn't just this was an assassination of Charlie Kirk. This was an assassination attempt on people who want free speech, on the idea of debate on university campuses. It was an assassination attempt on young people who want to learn about diverse ideas. There were an estimated 3,000 young people who showed up, a significant portion of which didn't agree with Charlie Kirk, which was the point. He always put first the people that disagreed with him. Put them first, so that they could have a platform for the world, and the world does have that platform to hear. It was an assassination attempt on that. And that's what I think this is a wake-up call, and I've heard about it appropriately used, given Turning Point USA, that this is going to be a turning point in this country, even more so than the assassination attempt of Trump, not because the attempt on Charlie Kirk was successful. But Charlie Kirk wasn't a president, wasn't a politician. He was a 31-year-old guy with a wife and 2 kids that went around to university campuses and invited people with diverse ideas to come together and debate those ideas. That was his great sin in the minds of so many people. He wasn't someone who came and demanded that no one challenge him. He wasn't someone who came and, if there was a protester said, I'm going to stop until they leave, he said, bring them to the microphone. Let them have their say. I think at the same time, well, let me mention that world leaders are making statements about this. He was a 31-year-old guy, not a politician, a guy that went around encouraging people to have conversations. One of the reasons, and he said this over and over again, when people would ask him, why are you doing this? Oftentimes, people on the left that didn't want him on campus, why are you doing this? And he would say, because when we stop talking to each other, that's when violence starts occurring. When world leaders stop talking to one another, that's when you get war. It is important that we do this for the sake of peace and becoming better people. And you think about how so many people celebrate the killing of someone like that. Some of the world leaders, Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel, among some of the first to share his grief, quote, a lion-hearted friend of Israel. He fought incidentally, this could be an anti-Semitic thing, it could be because he's a Christian. We've seen numerous attacks, particularly on, 2 schools with children, targeting them partially, at least because they're Christians. Of course, anti-Semitism. Governor Shapiro, being a Jewish governor, there was an attempt on his life that anti-Semitically driven. Because Charlie Kirk is such a friend and defender as a Christian of the Jewish people, it could be because of that. Quote, a lion-hearted friend of Israel, he fought the lies and stood tall for Judeo-Christian civilization. He added, noting that he spoke with Kirk just 2 weeks ago and invited him to Israel. Quote, sadly, that visit will not take place. We lost an incredible human being. His boundless pride in America and his valiant belief in free speech will leave a lasting impact. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. Quote, an atrocious murder, a deep wound for democracy and for those who believe in freedom. My condolence to his family, to his loved ones, and to the American conservative community. Javier Milei, president of Argentina, quote, a formidable disseminator of the ideas of freedom and staunch defender of the West. The entire world lost an incredible human being. The Prime Minister of UK, quote, it is heartbreaking that a young family has been robbed of a father and a husband. We must all be free to debate openly and freely without fear. There can be no justification for political violence. There were numerous messages of outcry from leadership across the UK, including the leader of the Reform UK, Nigel Farage, saying this is a very dark day for American democracy. I'm desperately sad for Charlie, his wife, and children. You have world leaders. When was the last time the killing of a citizen in the U.S. invoked this sort of true, straightforward response from leaders throughout the world? It's been a while. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. I'm going to read through some of your text messages. I'm not going to rush too fast, but probably go a little faster than they actually deserve. I've just asked you to forgive me for that, but with time constraints, just want to make sure to get some of these in. I'm positive you will be talking about Charlie Kirk. In my opinion, he was the James Madison of our times. What an amazing mind for a 31-year-old man. Another noting this Hank in Florida. Charlie Kirk was our modern-day MLK. We need a permanent monument to memorialize him. Let me tell you something. I think that is absolutely spot on. Now, there will be a lot of people that dismiss and mock that comparison. But to whom else would you compare him if you were looking towards somebody who was assassinated for his beliefs? Someone who wasn't an elected official, but had a significant and was making a difference in the country because of his words. Who could show up in places and have all sorts of people come together. Who may not even be of the same political background. That it wasn't about Republican or Democrat, but about an idea. And then was assassinated for it. And again, there may be specific there's anti-Semitism or anti-Christian or just, because he was a Trump supporter or because he was for free speech. Other text messages. I signed up with Turning Point USA yesterday. This is a desperate move from the left, this Marshall, possibly from a foreign adversary to silence conservatives. I believe they're desperate to stop the American agenda, to wake up American youth to the realities and indoctrination camps, what is also referred to as colleges, and the real number of statistics of what's really happening in this country. Another, where were all the riots last night? If this happened to someone on the left, they would have taken to the streets in violence. What a contrast. And the right are the one who are said to be filled with hate. I'm sick over what happened to Charlie and praying for our nation. Well, I'll even take that one a bit further, and that is an excellent point. You don't have to be hypothetical about it. We have seen riots in this country because of the death of an individual. George Floyd. And that arguably, that wasn't a targeted assassination because he was a liberal or a black man. It was a struggle between a police officer and a drug-fueled criminal who had been to prison, who had spent years in prison, who had a criminal track record, who was the ringleader of a gang of robbers, who put the gun to the belly of a pregnant woman during one of the robberies. That's how the left reacted when that person died. When he died, you had leaders of the Democrat Party literally get down on one knee in his honor in the Capitol. That same political party, when there was requested a moment of silence for the assassination of Charlie Kirk, whose greatest sin was encouraging debate and free speech on university campuses, those same Democrats booed and hissed. That is the state of the Democrat Party today. And if you are still clinging to that political party, you need to do a lot of self-reflection, because that is a willing association. Got to get another traffic update. I'm Nick Reed. Right now, we will have, like I said, obviously, there's going to be a lot of Charlie Kirk talk today, the implications of this, and Chrissy Filnecki in the upcoming hour. I'm Nick Reed. Springfield's Talk 1041. I am Nick Reed. Welcome to the show. Whenever a loved one passes on, and sometimes you see this portrayed in movies. If there's an estate, they're fighting. I think the first Knives Out movie, we all saw that together. Christy Fulnecki. And you remember we went to see Knives Out, the first Knives Out at Alamo?
Oh, we all
Yeah.
went to that, yeah.
And you've got the father, grandfather, and he dies, and there's all this fighting over who gets what and so forth. And so you think of it only in terms of families that already don't get along. And so a lot of times families don't plan. They think, well, we don't have a lot, and all our kids get together, and they have they all get along, so we don't have to worry about it. But sometimes feelings can get hurt, and sometimes divisions can unnecessarily be created because you got 2 or 3 siblings or kids that are left behind, and maybe you didn't realize how much a certain something meant to them, and you got 2 kids that both think that they deserve it for different reasons, and so you take what otherwise is a harmonious family and unnecessarily create friction. And it's just one of the unintended side effects of not planning ahead of time for those moments. And so, along with so many other things that they do, Ozarks Elder Law, they can make sure that is all taken care of ahead of time. And then if they're upset, they won't be upset at each other. They'll be upset with you, but you're already dead. So what do you care at that point, right? Ozarks Elder Law, free consultation, 10 area locations. You can get all of their information at ozarkselderlaw.com and under Nick's endorsements at ksgf.com. Christy Fulnecki is with us this morning.
Good morning.
And yes, good morning to you.
Man,
I know.
this is crazy.
Sarah was like, gosh, can we just forget this week? I mean, you had the
I know,
horrible,
yeah.
I mean, it happened on August 22nd, but
The real coverage started.
The real coverage finally started of that Ukrainian that was needlessly murdered, and then just compounding it by a political party downplaying it, media acting like it's not that big of a deal. And then you have an assassination, this time a successful one, though there have been many attempts against Republicans and conservatives, whether it's Steve Scalise, who was shot by a Bernie Sanders campaign volunteer. You had the attempt by a Democrat activist to kill, in his own words, he was going to kill every conservative Supreme Court justice, starting with Kavanaugh, but his sister called 911 in order to prevent that from happening. Of course, Trump twice, a real life attempt, one in which he was actually hit, and now a citizen whose most I guess it's supposed to be controversial activity is encouraging people on college campuses to discuss diverse ideas, to debate one another, and giving a platform for so many people on the left, the biggest platform they've ever had in their lives, and that is his videos to argue their ideas, to tell him why it is that they think he's wrong, and arguably for that, he was shot. Now, he fits into a number of categories of targeted people. He's a Christian.
Right.
We've seen Christians targeted. He's a conservative, obviously. He's a Trump supporter. Mm-hmm. He's been a huge defender of Jewish people against terrorism. And so pretty much every one of those categories puts him in the target of somebody on the left. And, which one we'll see as, well, hopefully, I mean, God forbid they end up not finding the person that did this.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
I mean, and for just to update people, in the very beginning, there was video of a person that was taken into custody, and that individual was released but charged with like obstruction of investigation or something. And there's a variation of stories as to exactly why that was. But then there had been from the beginning reports from the college saying, no, the shooter was in this building over here. They apparently caught someone, and Kash Patel had noted that. We have a person of interest. That person was released. And there is video circulating that someone, and I don't know if this has been authenticated, but of a person that at one point was scaling across the roof of one of those buildings. And that pretty much seems to be what information there is available.
I think Fox was playing that just a little bit ago.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, and I saw it posted, but kind of like you never really know for sure if that's actually what it is.
Well, and you forgot in your whole list of everything that's happened this week that today's 9/11.
Right.
I know.
Well, and yesterday I was in my mind thinking, okay, well, obviously we'll talk a bit about terrorism and the point of terrorism to change people's behavior.
Right.
And then yesterday, arguably, that is what partially at least was the motivation behind this, which is why it is terrorism, if that was the case.
Yeah. My daughter is at my office, and I was in court most of the day, and then when I got back to my office, and after I think the initial shock of everyone normally, especially if you follow politics closely and follow him, that I was like, if you don't think one person can change a world, this is such an example of one person. I mean, it's really just incredible what he's done.
Right. And he didn't do it by crafting relationships with rich and powerful people. Now those relationships would come, but they came because he was significant.
Right.
And I'm telling you, now whether again this was the driving force, but his significance was reaching and changing young people. And the Democrats have had a lock on young voters for the longest time.
Right. Yeah.
And Trump has been known to really brag about the fact that, hey, I mean, and the Democrats and the media have been shocked. Why is it young people are switching over? Well, then they see thousands and thousands of students that will show up at one of his events. And I'm telling you, it's not just to hear him speak. It is what's happened is, and we've actually talked about this before, why people like Charlie Kirk are popular with young people. Young people's minds have been stagnated largely because of a combination of the ease of information on phones and in a lot of the public schools, the lack of pushing critical thinking. Mm-hmm. And so where many of us grew up, I mean, even doing puzzles and games where you have to think, that's something a lot of young people just never do. They've never done. And when they would see a video like that of Charlie Kirk, asking people who disagree with him, give me your perspective, tell me why you think it, and then challenging it, and challenging them to challenge him back, it was something different, like this brain activation. And I think that really engaged young people, and it was teaching them to start thinking again. And that's what's so dangerous to the left.
Yeah.
Because that's what's making a difference. And for it to happen on these university campuses that are supposed to be indoctrination places, where you are supposed to learn what to think, not how to think. And here he was a cancer in there, and all these human beings were potential cancer cells that he was going to spread to. And that is very, very dangerous to the left.
Yeah, and for a long time, I mean, there was a huge vacuum of reaching young people because there wasn't anyone young that could articulate and would capture the mind, and maybe that's what you're talking about. But I mean, forever it would be. I just remember, like when I was in college, Republicans, we'd always say at Mizzou, we need to get more people involved, and then you couldn't get people to come to the meetings, and you're thinking, how do you activate that? And that's been, an issue for decades.
And what I believe has occurred that has made someone like him successful, and there are others as well, it is a recognition and use of the venues that young people use.
Right.
Which Trump clearly recognized.
He's going to them.
Going to them, not just on university campuses, but that stuff that gets filmed by the young people, and they put it on their platforms.
Yeah.
So the messaging is in the right venue, but and this is crazy, it's just going back to good old fashioned thinking.
I know, yeah. Which you didn't have in school.
But you look at how that compares to the way that the left tries to reach young people. You look at the Kamala Harris campaign. Celebrities, rappers coming out and just entertaining and all the and it's just all surface stuff. It's really demeaning because it wasn't there for the purpose of entertaining.
Right.
That was like the bulk of the message for young people, and paying young influencers. I mean, they're still doing that up to $8,000 a month to spread their message, and using the right tools in the places that they are, with actual treating them like human beings with brains. I think that combination is what has just been so perfect, and it's clearly working, and that is why this is such a significant thing.
Yeah, and it's something that, because I've thought about this a lot, having so many children, and I have 5 in Generation Z and then 1 in Alpha, and so not only the vacuum, but like you said, they haven't seen this debate of ideas because, now in school, you can't talk about, I mean, I would say, well, did you talk about this in politics? Did you talk about this? We're not allowed to talk about the president in some class. Now, this is just not my kid's school. At
Right.
different places, we're not allowed to talk about this subject. This is too political. We can't. So you can't even debate you can't debate ideas.
And that's where
obviously
you should
at university,
do it.
but not even in, grade school or high
You
school.
might trigger. And
So-
this is
and
a
it's-
safe space.
And so it's so challenging. And so, the past, I don't know how long it's been going on, but this Jubilee, I don't know if you've ever watched it, but it was with Charlie Kirk. And so I didn't even know what it was, but the past, I don't know, I know the past year, my younger kids are like, you need to watch this Jubilee with Charlie Kirk. And so they sit in the middle, and then it was a circle, and then they had a certain amount of time to debate them in the middle. Okay. And so I don't want to go to the whole thing so people can look it up, but it was so great. And my kids loved it. And they were like, this is so interesting. They have a certain amount of time.
Well, and the whole point is the free exchange of ideas, debating.
Right.
That's the whole thing. And that's his sin in the minds of the left. Except listening to other people, inviting people who disagree with him to talk. And that's what should be scary to people. The reason that they hate Charlie Kirk to the degree that they do, it's not because he's conservative. Yes, they hate him because of that. But what the real driving hatred is the fact that he coexists with others and encourages people who have different views to talk about them, because they don't, I know this comparison gets thrown around a lot, but it's like a cult.
Yeah.
Where the left is a cult, you cannot discuss ideas. When you are in a cult, this is what you believe. And just like, the idea, it would be insane for the cult to be like, you know what, we're going to bring some outsiders in too, and we're going to sit down and debate with them and let them explain.
Yeah,
you don't do
they
that.
don't want
You
anyone
cut
from
them
their
off.
group going
yes,
either.
Those
Yeah.
people, they tell them, cut them off. They are poison to you. They are toxic. You have to get them out of your lives, which people on the left are told all the time about family members that are Trump supporters. And so that is, that is the real danger for the left, is the fact that it wasn't what he believed, but that he was willing to coexist with others and talk with others, because see, that influences people.
Yeah.
Normal
right, yeah.
people see that and they go, I like that. And then they start losing their ranks. We got to get a news
Okay.
update. More with Christy Fulnecki. I'm Nick Reed.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today it'll be sunny and hot with a high near 94. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 67. And for your Friday and Saturday, sunny and hot with a high near 96.
Tomorrow morning, we will chat with Barry from Pinnaker Honda when we are broadcasting live from Scramblers. Find out what food truck will be at Pinnaker Honda on South Campbell, just south of Walnut.
You know,
Lawn.
that's not what I look forward to.
It's not?
I look forward to what nickname you're going to call him. And I also look forward to the question that you ask him.
Yeah, I like to come up with new
What was
names.
the question last week?
Have you ever been in a fist fight?
Yeah. So I can't wait to see what you have.
I always like there's always just this slightest bit of fear in his eyes when because I never tell him what the question's going to be. And so he doesn't know. So, but he'll be out there to talk about some of the fantastic deals they have. But Edson, here's just a review that he gave from Pinnaker Honda, saying great experience servicing my vehicle. They do have, especially if you purchase, of course, anybody can get their vehicle serviced there, but they have the 20% off routine maintenance with purchase of a new vehicle at Pinnaker Honda. And great experiencing service my vehicle, said Edson. Routine maintenance, oil change. Big thank you to Devin for the amazing customer service experience. He's very knowledgeable, very professional. Everyone is so professional and nice. Will be coming back. I have a Honda Ridgeline 17 and an HR-V 16. I take both vehicles here and see Devin. Best dealership and service department in all town. Best experience. Just got a windshield replaced. It was done so fast, but overall efficiently. Thank you, Pinnaker Honda. And, of course, again, tomorrow we'll chat with Barry from Pinnaker Honda while we are at Scramblers. You can find all their info, should you need to look for it, there under Nick's endorsements at ksgf.com. Christy Fulnecki's with us.
Yes.
And,
yeah. Oh, I was going to say one thing that I heard last night. I thought it was a really good description of Charlie Kirk. Is and I don't know who this guy is. He's always on Jesse Waters, but he... I don't know if he's some big business icon. I don't know. But he said that Charlie was the cross between Billy Graham and Rush Limbaugh. And I thought, that's a very good description.
Yeah, it is a good description.
Because people don't, some people, but if you follow him closely, he was a modern day preacher. He really would go out there and talk to kids about values and the Bible. And I didn't realize it that much. My kids follow him a lot closer than I did, but how he would talk about biblical principles. And then one clip I was watching last night, and you might have already known this, but that he puts his phone away on Sundays and turns his phone off and just spends time with his family. And I thought, wow, in today's world, to actually talk about that and talk to young people about the importance of that, I think that's incredible.
Yeah, I wanted to mention because the media coverage of this, and they portray him as divisive, as if that means that he deserved it. And I'm like, you want to have a conversation with these people and be like, why is he divisive? Because of his ideas? Well, then anyone in this country who has a political belief is divisive by that definition, because we all have different ideas. And if it's because of the way that the left reacts to it, so that makes someone divisive. The definition of divisive is when people on the left don't agree with it. That makes it divisive. That's an authoritarian perspective. But so on, you had on MSNBC, commentator Matthew Dowd essentially taking the position that Charlie Kirk had it coming. But he's been fired.
Yeah, I saw he was fired. But it wasn't right away.
Well,
it was.
It
was a little bit later.
Which, generally there's a little bit of time because you got to, call HR and all that sort of. So I will say this: it happened a lot faster than one would generally think. MSNBC would get rid of someone for saying something so. Given some of the crap that they've said over there,
it was out there.
But generally, it'd be like it would take a huge drumbeat. It would take other people covering it. Then it would take, they're going to be on suspension for a while, and then it would, that's how. So the fact that, it was yesterday the president of NBC came out and disavowed it and said this is not acceptable. And then at some point, it was noted that he was fired.
Sick.
But what I hope. So here, and maybe I'm just trying to look for a little bit of positive, that because this happened relatively quickly, given that it's MSNBC, and that they whomever made the decision recognize, okay, this is even over the line. We're not talking about Trump, not that that would make it okay, but
Yeah, right.
this is a 31-year-old family guy who goes around just inviting discussions of different
Yeah.
ideas, you know?
He's
And
an even elected official.
yeah, are we
I
really
mean-
going to assign blame to him because of his ideas?
Yeah.
That are we really going to? And I hope that if you look for potential positives that come out of this, that this is going to be seen as a lot different to people who maybe even when it came to Trump getting shot, that, you know, they weren't pro or anti-Trump, but they're like, well, you know, he is a president and that sort of thing happens, that they're going to see.
Right,
And but here's the other thing. Not only they're going to be like, who's this Charlie Kirk guy? And they're going to look him up and they're going to see what he did. And they're going to be like, well, isn't that what's supposed to happen on college campuses?
Yeah, right. I know. Yeah.
Here's a guy that is letting people, he is putting to the head of the line people who disagree with them, giving them a platform to talk so that they can debate it. And he got killed for that. And there are people on the left that are celebrating that Democrats in Congress refuse to have a moment of silence for this guy.
Oh, yeah.
And so
that was crazy.
I think that there are going to be a lot of people that for the first time are going to start to recognize how much danger the left has created just for average people
Yeah.
who aren't elected officials, who just want to be part of the conversation, as they say. And I will say, this is anecdotal, but there were a lot of people that were on my Facebook timeline that I have no idea their political affiliation because they never post anything political. And some of them noted that, but that were expressing their absolute disgust at how people were reacting about his killing.
Yeah, I was surprised at that too. I know what you're talking about. People that normally don't
Yes,
say anything
it's completely
about politics.
right.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, and I was surprised.
And I think that is a good thing.
Yeah.
Because that it's a sign that the direction that the left is trying to take us and have taken us, that there are a lot of people out there that say, no, that's wrong. We can't do that. And as opposed to saying, and even being indifferent to it.
Yeah.
And, you know, given the indifference that, you know, you visually see the stabbing of those people on the bus and, you know, that Russian refugee, you start to think, my gosh, you know, are the only people who care the people who care? And to see people that don't weigh in on these things, to rebuke the response by some people on the left to this assassination of a citizen because of his political beliefs is it's a hopeful sign. More with Chrissy Fulnecki as we continue on. I'm Nick Reed. I want a great homeloan.com. We talked with Anthony Carricker last Friday while at Scramblers, and one of the theme of that conversation was the second look, or just when you get a second opinion, I guess is maybe the better term to use. And if you've already been going through the process and it seems to really be dragging, maybe you aren't their number one priority. They relate a story, as they oftentimes do, of somebody that came in and they're like, for like 4 months, we've been trying to get this done, and they're dragging the feet, and then the loan officer changing this and that. And in 2 weeks, from start to finish, the Carrickers, the team got it closed and taken care of. Now, I recommend just, bypass all of that hassle and go with them first. But if you do decide, well, I know Bill, he's been my loan officer for 48 years over here where I got my first checking account when I was 16, and so I feel obligated, that's fine. But if things start to, maybe you think, this isn't going as well as I think it could, I want a great homeloan.com. Traffic update, I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today it'll be sunny and hot with a high near 94. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 67. And for your Friday and Saturday, sunny and hot with a high near 96.
I want to say one last thing about right now, anyhow, the Charlie Kirk situation, because I do have some audio of separate stuff I wanted to play with Christy here. Mm-hmm. And Mike Landis had the news there, noting the assassination, and that, of course, they were anticipating more condemnation of political violence from both sides. But here's the thing, and I'm just going to be real about this, and I know a lot of times conservatives try to be fair, and they're like, we don't want to cast blame, but it's tough talk, the condemnation is irrelevant. It really is. You have to, and this is for, like, Gavin Newsom condemns political violence, but he just used violent rhetoric against Republicans last month.
Yeah.
When you fuel it, and then it happens, coming out and condemning it is irrelevant.
Right.
It's like, I knew someone once who had, when they were a younger person, had gone into drug rehab. And this person was telling me that one of the individuals that they got drugs from was a counselor at this rehabilitation center, and everyone knew it there. And so they would get their drugs from the drug counselor, but then they'd have to go in order to fulfill their requirements for being on probation or whatever, and sit through all the rigmarole of being told now don't do this, drugs are bad. But that was irrelevant to them because they knew they were the ones fueling them the drugs. Well, it's the same thing. When you are fueling your followers this rhetoric, telling them that these people are evil, these people are going to end democracy, there'll never be another election again, people are disappearing citizens, these people are Nazis, and then they go out because they think, I'm doing something good, I'm saving our country, I'm going to take out a Nazi, I'm going to take out a wannabe dictator. And then you're like, oh, but by the way, we condemn all political violence. That's irrelevant.
Yeah.
That doesn't do any good. You have to stop fueling it. They're not going to.
Well, yeah. And part of it, what it's called an exclusion to the First Amendment, is inciting violence. And the whole, yelling fire in a crowded movie theater that you learn in law school. So, I mean, I would say, which is so ironic, because they say that that's what Trump does. And they say, some of the commentators last night were saying, that's what Charlie Kirk did. Not one time did I hear any of, especially Charlie Kirk. I never heard him say anything about inciting violence.
Well, not to mention, when has there been an assassination attempt or an assassination of somebody on the left, and the person who did it was using the talking points of Donald Trump or Charlie Kirk?
Yeah, right.
Doesn't happen. It's always the other way.
Right. And then that's what I was thinking. What liberal has been assassinated for their beliefs?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, go all the way back. Even though John Kennedy was a Democrat,
but it was a lefty. But
right.
Yeah, the guy who killed was a lefty.
Right. So you have to go. I mean, I couldn't think of anybody. But I mean, I totally agree with the sentiment about having the effect of Martin Luther King. I mean, he will definitely go down in history for that. And, which we don't know. I mean, part of it, as far as a motive, could be his Christian beliefs also, like you mentioned earlier. But, it's just the vacuum for, the country but the people that actually follow politics so closely. And I don't know why this popped in my head. It's, I guess, fitting for 9/11. Is when Barbara Olson died. And I don't know if people remember her, but she was a commentator, and she was married to the solicitor, Ted Olson. And for some reason...
and she was on one of the planes.
Yeah, she was on the plane that went in the Pentagon. And she was, I don't know, for me, maybe because I was, getting ready to go to law school or whatever, but she was very influential, with a lot of women, and she was, conservative woman. And not that was not that popular back then. And so that was a huge vacuum, at least for me, because that's someone that you look up to. And Rush Limbaugh, there's not very many times that somebody's made such a big impact on the conservative movement. So, I mean, it's definitely a loss, but it's an inspiration too, because it inspires people. I mean, he said on one of his clips last night that he wanted to be remembered for his faith. Yeah. And so, I mean, how many people can say they're doing God's will for their life and that's where they're supposed to be? And so he inspires other people and us that are fighting for the truth. Because I'm telling you right now, being in court almost every day now, the truth is not in the courtroom. And I mean, we all have to fight for the truth. And it's not just about being conservative. It's about fighting for what's true, in our culture. And that's just something that, I mean, there's a lot of evil, and the evil's increasing. So,
coming up, I want to play a couple bits of audio of black women in cities regarding Trump and National Guard. And one of the, I guess it's a upside of the way that the algorithms work. If you're like, oh, I watched one video of a dolphin sexually assaulting someone, and then all of a sudden every dolphin sexually assaulting someone video pops up in your feed. And so I ended up somehow coming across, and I'll play one of these. It was a black woman in Chicago giving a message to white liberals And I watched all of it. And so all of a sudden, there are a lot of black women out there that are very, very, very vocal about how disgusted they are with the Democrat Party. And the fact that what they're seeing for the first time are white liberals demanding that
right.
demanding that police and Trump not be allowed to make their black neighborhood safer. And so they're beginning to really see in real life the racism of the Democrat Party. So some of the audio next. I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers.
Thank you. The Pyramid Roofing Company, summer is wrapping up and fall will be here before you know it. And now is the time to think about your roof. You want to make sure that your home is protected, and that is where the Pyramid Roofing Company comes in. The Pyramid team, they offer free roof inspections and they check for everything from nail pops to shingle blistering to hail damage. They offer residential, commercial, and metal roofing services. They also offer discounts for our military and first responders on new roof installs. And they walk with you through that insurance process to make sure that everything gets covered. If it is time to have the Pyramid team out to your home, reach out to Josh today and schedule that free roof inspection. You can find all of the contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Chrissy Filnecki with us. Want to play video. This is a video of a black woman from Chicago, and this is sort of a message to the world. Increasingly, people do this. It isn't necessarily to any one particular individual, though she does direct it largely towards white liberals, who, of course, claim the mantle of being the great warriors for people of color. And this is conversation about crime and Trump and National Guard.
Liberals in Chicago have the privilege of being able to say that we don't need the National Guard here in Chicago. They have the privilege of saying that because they keep themselves in their careful bubbles of Lincoln Park, Wicker Park. They stay up in some of the northern areas and they go and frolic at the beach, playing volleyball and pickleball and tennis in these areas where it's clean. There's minimal crime. Of course you feel like we don't need the National Guard because you've never stepped foot on the actual South and West Side. Elitist progressives and leftist white Chicagoans have the privilege of not needing the National Guard in order to feel safe in their communities. They walk out their door in the morning with their babies to go get a quick coffee and their kid on a scooter with a helmet. That's privilege. That's the same privilege that you claim you want to be a part of unpacking and getting away from. It's the yuppie white women in Chicago who want to scream about Trump being fascist, yet they keep themselves carefully, safely tucked away in Lincoln Park. Come to Woodlawn. And not the cute part. No, go past 63rd. Come to Auburn Gresham. Chatham. Inglewood. Get on your scooter there. And do it about 7 o'clock. Okay. If you're not going to do that, mind your business.
Now, let me tell you
that
what
was epic.
Let me tell you what I really love about that, and it is a real point, referencing it as white privilege. Now, we have long had this battle over white privilege, and she said this is what the left wraps themselves in, white privilege, that they say they want to unpack. But the white privilege they talk about doesn't exist. Because they talk about this white privilege, the left, in the context of, well, there is this infrastructure in place. There is this system in place that prevents black people from having the same privileges as white people. And the common response to that is, well, name me something. What is it that you're able to do that as a black person, the system stops you from doing that I'm able to do? And there's never really any answer. She actually gives an answer to that.
Right, yeah.
Because that is a system that's in place. She lives in a city that is run by a political party that is trying to block efforts to come in and make her neighborhood as safe as the white liberal rich neighborhoods.
Yeah.
That is a system that is preventing her from being able to walk out on the street with her kids, to ride on a scooter through the neighborhood with her kids and go to the park. And so I love the fact that she really does, I think, highlight the fact that there is white privilege in this country. It's just in these Democrat-run cities where white people are able to live a lifestyle that black people generally aren't. And whenever somebody like Donald Trump says, I'm going to come in and change that like he did in Washington, D.C., the system that they live under stops that from happening. That is white privilege.
Right. Yeah, and I like how she and who is she? Just somebody?
Just some citizen of Chicago.
I mean, I thought, man, she should run for office there, because for her specifically to call out elites, I love the pickleball comment. I thought that was pretty funny. But I mean, I hear this a lot, like, because I know this might not be a good comparison, but I think it's the first thing that popped in my mind. So I always just say what I'm going to think, or what I'm thinking, is that we were in New Orleans, and our Uber driver was talking about the mayor there. And so I don't know if you've heard about all the corruption that's been going on in New Orleans.
Did you tell him
Cantrell
that you ran for mayor once?
No.
Okay, no.
No, I thought it was fitting that I say, well, I ran for mayor and I lost. So Cantrell.
To a cheeseburger.
I know, that's right. Thanks, that makes me feel a lot better today.
Sorry to get you off track.
Lose to the McCheese.
Who, by the way, is being inducted into the Springfield School System's Hall of Fame.
Oh, I didn't hear.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, go back. Go.
For closing down the school in the city during COVID. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so there's now, this is before. Okay, so I think she was just indicted for all this. The mayor of New Orleans. It was like wire fraud, obstruction of justice. She defrauded the city of $70,000 and concealed her affair with her personal bodyguard that was married. And so this was all going on. So in May, this is in May when we were talking to this lady, and she was just going off on the mayor. And she said, I don't know why why are these people in office? So she was saying that I think there's some corruption with their voting system, because she's like, all my friends, this is a black lady that is
clearly an election denier.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And so she's
danger to democracy.
But someone that lives in New Orleans, a black lady, to your point, and was saying, this Cantrell, we do not like her. The people of our city don't want her here. And then after, she spoke to the after the terrorism event, and she said it was nice having the federal government come in here and take over, because Cantrell is so caught up, and this is before she was even indicted. Cantrell is so caught up with her boyfriend and this affair, and she's embezzling money and going on and on and on. But she says, finally, somebody's coming to help us, because this woman's not helping us. And I think we're trapped in a system where our elections aren't fair. And so, I mean, the people are frustrated in these cities.
Yeah, they're starting to. There's some meaningful movement that's occurring. And after the traffic, I want to play. There's another black woman. This time she's from Baltimore. much different personality than the Chicago woman we just heard from. And she is responding to white liberals that are a lot. She's driving through Baltimore, her home city, and there are white
Which is a
liberal,
hole.
yeah,
I mean, that place.
and there are white liberals along the road that are protesting Donald Trump. Don't come here, stay out, you dictator. And her audio response to that to them as she's driving by coming up. We played audio of a black woman that was addressing white liberals in Chicago and the fact that they are trying to stop Trump from coming in to make black neighborhoods as safe as the white neighborhoods. And she accurately describes that as white privilege. And that is white privilege, a system that is trying to prevent the black people of Chicago from having the same quality of life as the white people. Now, over in Baltimore, this is a black woman who is driving in her city of Baltimore, and she observes. So you're going to hear wind because she has her window down, and all there's lining the streets are white liberals that are protesting Donald Trump.
The kid cannot the kid with the price testing Trump. The kids in Baltimore are getting shot dead. The kids in Baltimore are getting shot dead, and the whites is out here. Look at the whites. The whites is out here protesting Trump. Did you know that there was murders down the street? Y'all protesting. Oh, okay. So the whites, they came out here. Instagram loves y'all. The whites came out here to Trump. Ain't that something, y'all? The whites can protest about anything else, and they choose to protest Trump.
I mean,
I know, that's right.
two different worlds. Here she's, talking about kids in Baltimore can't read, shooting each other in the streets, and you all white people here, you're protesting Trump. That's what you're protesting?
I mean, it's just shocking. And I cannot believe. Well, it's very interesting what that first woman was saying, that I wonder where these people live. So if they live in Baltimore, where exactly do they live? Because I'm telling you, I go to that place a lot, and it is the biggest hole. It's terrible. It's so dangerous. Like around the Baltimore, the waterfront and Johns Hopkins. One of my kids was there. I mean, it's not just like, oh, there's potholes or whatever. I mean, you are scared to walk across the street.
This is, and I saw, I think it was Pam Bondi announced that, and this has gotten missed because of all the news that's been going on, that Trump is not planning on, he's decided not to send National Guard into Chicago. They're going to find a city that wants them. And I think this is fantastic, because what some of these people, the black women in particular, they're the ones that, when it comes to crime and family and stuff, that are really, they're tuned into this because they're victims of it, and they see what has occurred in Washington, D.C. And they see which political party is trying to prevent their city from becoming more safe.
Right.
And they're recognizing that it's not their city as much as it's their neighborhoods. And Trump going to a city that is going to, if find one, there's got to be some city that'll be willing to work with him that has a crime problem to actually have that working relationship that will help the impact of the federal government coming in. And so it will be yet another example, another area in which you have black neighborhoods in which they're out there saying we can walk around in parks now, and it's just going to further demonstrate to every one of these other cities, particularly the black areas of the city, this is what can happen, but the people running your city are stopping it from happening.
Yeah.
You got like 30 seconds.
They say all politics is local, and being in local government, that you can't get people to really do something in a political sense or call to action unless it happens to them, specifically in their neighborhood. And this is something that maybe these people in these cities can stop those liberals and then at least get problem solved.
Well, and the increased number of black women that are coming out and expressing their voices on social media shows why it was Democrats have been so desperate to censor on social media.
Right.
Christy Vilnicki, thank you much. It's always great pleasure. News in 60 seconds. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. She's a good person. Her husband's a good person. They, we talk with her so often, and for years I have been just as a friend to you, recommending her. Her husband, he of course has been in the industry with her for some time. He deals more with large pieces of land. So the great thing about that is whether you are looking just to buy a new house in a nice little neighborhood, or if you are looking to buy 100 acres in some specific area, you're going to find your help with either of those two individuals. And one of the great things about Emily Johnson is how she works she's got the networking, the connections. And I don't know if you've ever had a friend that just always has access to really cool stuff. And it's like because they know everyone. Like, my gosh, you always get to do this and that. Well, I know a guy. Well, I know someone over here. They're just very fortunate, but they have crafted those relationships. Well, that's how Emily Johnson is, and that's how she is when it comes to things that you may need to do on your home in order to sell it. So many of the positive reviews that come from people who have utilized her are about how she helped make those connections. She even helps set them up at times. And then when it comes to the home loan, she works with the Carrickers, and that is so helpful when the person that is helping you find the new home has a great working relationship with the people who are handling the home loan. Incredible. So that's much of what she brings to the table. It's part of what makes her so incredible and the best in the area. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. We have an author of the week coming up, which I think that you will enjoy, and there will be a book signing this Saturday from this author, an author who spent quite a bit of time in prison because of a murder that occurred here in Springfield. So we'll have that coming up, sponsored, of course, by ABC Books on North Glenstone. Now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today it'll be sunny and hot with a high near 94. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 67. And for your Friday and Saturday, sunny and hot with a high near 96.
And I'm Nick Reed, and it's Thursday, which means it is time for Author of the Week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. And this is one I think you're all going to find with great interest. And also, a book signing is coming up this Saturday with our author. We'll give you more details on that coming up, the author, Judy Henderson. And the book is When the Light Finds Us, from a Life Sentence to a Life Transformed. And I'm gonna start off just before we get into, well, I don't know what you would call the fulcrum of the story, maybe, but tell your background, if you would, and many people might remember your name as being connected to Springfield, and it started when you moved to Springfield some time ago. So if you would give us that background, which is sort of the foundation for what becomes your story.
Sure. Nick, to begin with, I want to thank you sincerely for having me on your show. I greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely.
As the on my story, on my life, is I was the oldest of 8 children. I got married at the age of 19 to my abuser. I was married for 12 years, divorced him, and we had 2 children. Then I ended up in a psychiatric ward about 2 months after the divorce because he wouldn't leave me alone. I moved to, we lived in the Kansas City area at that time. I ended up getting released and moved to Springfield with my parents and my 2 children, where I purchased the Terrific Tanning Salon that was at the corner of Sunshine and Glenstone by the huge business tower that they had just built back then, and that was in the early 80s. So I had my own business doing good. I mean, the children were doing great, and I met my co-defendant. And all this happened, Nick, within a short time frame, because I got my divorce in June, was in the psychiatric ward September to October. Moved to Springfield, got my business in February, met my co-defendant in April. He moved into my home in June, and the story of my life sentence began shortly thereafter, because the crime was...
No, I'm sorry. I was going to just interject for people listening. They hear you use the term co-defendant, and obviously ears perk up, and people are like, "Oh, well, this story's going somewhere where I perhaps didn't imagine." But one of the things that I do also want to mention is that the co-defendant, which, if I'm correct, sort of just moved in with you and was almost welcomed by you in doing so because of your past, relationship as being somebody who was abused, and even I believe your family thought that this was a good guy as well. Is that correct?
Correct.
So you guys he moves in, you're in a relationship, and did it take long before you realized that this wasn't a healthy relationship, that there was some history being repeated? Yeah.
Those days. So I didn't even know the definition of domestic violence. It was something that was done behind closed doors. Not even the police officers would get involved. They had no say-so in anything then. It wasn't until later, in probably the late 80s or 90s, actually, or middle 80s, that the term battered women syndrome even came to light.
We're talking we're talking with our author of the week, Judy Henderson, and the book is When the Light Finds Us, from a Life Sentence to a Life Transformed. The juxtapositioning here of what comes next and who you were in terms of a citizen is one that doesn't seem that common. You're a business owner, and
Correct.
you get caught up in not embezzlement or some sort of financial crime or fraud, but robbery that becomes murder. How does that happen?
It happened in a blink of an eye, to be honest with you. Everything that was done for this to come about that evening was only told to me in increments the night of the murder. I did not know any step that was coming next until he relayed it to me. And all of this is very much laid out in the book. And it was one that I never saw coming. I never thought there would be a murder. I never thought anybody would get hurt. They weren't supposed to be hurt. But I ended up getting shot myself. I think the bullet we decided grazed me that gave me the scar on my stomach. And so I was totally blindsided. I was in shock. I could not believe this kind of life was happening before my very eyes, because my family had never been involved in the criminal system or been arrested for anything at all. No one in my history. My ancestors, no one. So we were really naive whenever it came to the judicial system and how it worked.
So this is, and again, for people, the book, and this is sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone, is When the Light Finds Us, From a Life Sentence to a Life Transformed, and a lot of relevant details that people can find reading the book. This was what would be a high-profile attempt to rob a jewelry store, and then whenever the employee wouldn't turn over the jewelry, that's when the shots fired out, killing an employee, hitting you as well. And then you both end up getting arrested, and you end up with the same attorney, which you would learn did not work in your favor.
Correct. It was ironic that I trusted him so much, and then to see this other side of him that took sides with my co-defendant instead of giving me a good defense was very shocking. Again, so that caused a very, very serious conflict of interest, which was totally against my constitutional right.
And so how did that work against you? What was the result?
I was the first one to go to trial. And so it was only mitigating circumstances. They had no physical evidence. But I had no defense, Nick, because anything that I would put on the stand for my defense would affect my co-defendant, which was also his client. So therefore, that's how it gravely affected me.
So ultimately, and again, people will get the details in the book. You go along, your boyfriend, to this robbery, which you really didn't understand what was going to completely play out. No one was supposed to get hurt. He ends up firing the gun, killing someone, shooting you in the process. You go to prison, and what happens with him? What was the final verdict for him and for you?
For me, I almost received the death penalty, which means I would have been executed 18 to 20 years after I had served it. However, I did end up with life without parole for 50 years, and I served 36 of those years. He, on the other hand, was acquitted by a jury of 12 females.
I mean, that must have just been shocking.
Oh, it was devastating. It was just unbelievable. But not only that, he also, before he went to trial, put a contract out on me in prison because he feared me coming back to testify against him, which I was going to, and spoke with the chief prosecutor, which was Judge Mountjoy at the time, which I really, really want to give him a shout out because he is the one that actually advocated for me to get my release. He really told me that after we met, he said that he told my attorney that the only case that he had ever had nightmares about was mine. And he had to step up and do the right thing. And so I know, and I told him I never held any animosity toward him because he was doing a job that he was elected to do. And he did it extremely well. So I never did look at him as anybody that I should hold any hatred toward or be angry with.
Now,
He was doing a job that.
we're talking with Judy Henderson, author of When the Light Finds Us, From a Life Sentence to a Life Transformed. You mentioned you weren't angry at him, but you went into prison and you found yourself angry with God. And I'm curious how I think a lot of people can certainly understand that. Given all this, and then add on top of it, the guy who's responsible for it, he gets away with it. Everything just seems to be wrong and unfair, and so that anger. What caused the transformation from that person that goes to prison, is angry at the world, angry at God, to someone who decided, no, you know what? I'm gonna make the best of this.
Right. Well, of any, I did not harm anybody, did not know anyone was going to be harmed. And I had a deep love and a deep bond with my family and my siblings and my children. They were my life for those 12 years. I was a suburban mother that did PTA meetings and brownies and took my daughter to dance classes. So this could happen to anybody. And so I just decided, as angry as I was, that as much as I loved my family and I knew I was going to fight to come home to them, I took those two elements, those two emotions, and which are both very strong, and I turned that into a positive energy. I could have gotten bitter, but instead I chose to get better. And through that transformation, I did everything within my power to help mothers and children and help mothers learn how to mother their children behind bars. I started many different programs. I became a certified paralegal, a dog trainer, a fitness trainer, a hairdresser. I took college classes at a 4.0 grade average. I wanted to do everything I could to make me as powerful and as knowledgeable as I could possibly be. But I also had to work on my spirituality. And that was a transformation that really brought me great blessings, great miracles all the time. Every time I turned around, I was being able to do something productive, not for myself, but to help others. And that's what I found was my purpose.
And then
it took me going to prison.
And then one day, a governor by the name of Eric Greitens pays you a visit.
Correct. Yes.
So
yes,
did you know that? So talk about that, if you would.
No, I did not know that, because never in the history of Missouri has there been a governor that would come actually to a prison to release a lifer, not only release them, but give them a full pardon, give them immediate release, and do it in the first year. The first year, I want to emphasize that, of their term.
Yeah, generally that is something that is a rush towards the end of a governor's term, is a real push to have some of that done. And so to have it done so soon, I mean, this must have been shock. Did you, I would imagine, someone in that position may never lose hope completely. You always perhaps think, well, maybe one day somehow. Did you still hold out hope? And I mean, I can't imagine when you find out that news that the governor is going to make this move to release you so you can be with your family again.
Oh, right. I mean, I was totally shocked. I mean, I went through 6 governors. Actually, one of the governors was going to release me in November. Governor Mel Carnahan, his team had already came to see me. I was going to be released in November.
The plane crash.
He was in the plane crash in October. So that was,
goodness.
of course, not devastating for just us, but for his total family, which we still, are sincerely, regretful that happened to him and his family. But Governor Greitens was my 7th governor, and that I had petitioned a clemency to. And, I always say that 7 is God's number of completion. So God knew what he was doing. I just didn't know what he was doing,
Yeah.
what plans he had for my future. But I always stood on Jeremiah 29:11. I know the plans I have for you, plans for good and not for harm. And so whenever that happened that day, I was totally in shock. I didn't want to go to the visiting room. They were forcing me to go to the visiting room, the officers were, because it wasn't a visiting day. And so whenever they told me to go, at first I refused. I was not going to go. And they said, either you go or you go to the hole. And I thought, oh, gosh, okay, well, this is getting serious, so I think I better go. And I went up there. My family did not even know till the day before, the evening before, actually. And my daughter was sworn to secrecy, and they had to know every person. And it could only be family members that could come to the prison the next day to see my release. It could not be anybody else. They were adamant about that. And absolutely no publicity. The governor did not want any publicity because he said this was about me and my family, not about him and politics. So I have to commend him because he sincerely did care about the people. And he did what was right for human beings, not for politics. So we are still all family and friends to this day, and he's still my mentor.
Well, I can only imagine. Our author of the week, Judy Henderson, and the book "When the Light Finds Us: From a Life Sentence to a Life Transformed." Last question I have, and then any final thoughts that you have. What is your hope for people who read this book? What would you like them to take away from it?
What I would like for people to take away, Nick, is the fact that whatever your dream is, whatever you have given up on, whatever thing you think that you cannot endure because the pain is too hard, it's too tough, it's too hurtful, don't give up, because everything is possible. Miracles happen every day that we forget about, that we don't even pay attention to, that we don't even see. And so do not give up. Create a vision board. That's what I did. And I put what I wanted on that vision board, and that was my faith in action. By putting it on there and reminding me every day, here's my family, picture of my family in the center, and everything else that I wanted, a commutation, a pardon, a book, a movie. The only thing that hasn't come true yet is the movie, a jet plane, and a sports car. So, but everything else on that vision board totally came true.
Well, there's still time. So you never do know. And I really appreciate the story and your time with us this morning. And, it really does show that no matter where you are in life, that, you put it in the hands of God, and things here on earth can still turn around, be positive, and then God use you as an example for others and what it is that he can do. And you, again, are going to be doing a book signing at ABC Books this Saturday from noon until 3. So people can come by, pick up the book, get a book signature, and have a chance to meet you. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. And again, a huge thank you to ABC Books on North Glenstone, sponsoring our author of the week, Judy Henderson, When the Light Finds Us: From a Life Sentenced to a Life Transformed, on Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Before we hit traffic here, there was a press conference update. I believe it was someone with the FBI. It looked like the FBI guy from yesterday's press conference that they say that they do have some visuals. I'm not sure if it's pics and or videos of the individual believed to have been the assassin of Charlie Kirk yesterday. The weapon being found was announced as well. Also, footprint, palm print, and arm print. Some of the evidence that they announced that they do have as they continue the search for the assassin. So that's sort of the latest update regarding the current search that is underway. And, of course, all throughout the day with the programs, you'll be hearing any sort of new information that breaks regarding anything related to the assassination yesterday of Charlie Kirk. We've got a traffic update now. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today it'll be a sunny and hot one with a high near 94. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 67. And for your Friday and Saturday, sunny and hot with a high near 96.
Incidentally, as we were talking earlier, talk inside baseball stuff here. I did not yet, which I usually do by now, get an email from our department that schedules commercials about why so many of them missed.
Oh.
Because anytime there's a press conference, Hannity blows through them. Mm-hmm. Usually Levin doesn't, but it was pretty important yesterday, and I'm just shocked that maybe they just assume, like, we know what happened here.
Yeah, maybe. Now, I was talking to somebody who's not a part of the traffic department here, but another individual that sometimes gets, involved in these emails. So I told her, so maybe...
Oh, okay.
She
could very well
kind of let them know.
Either which way. Guess what, everyone? Springfield Symphony, Caitlin Pack with us. Don Juan coming up.
We are very excited to be opening our season this weekend with the amazing work of Don Juan. It's such an iconic piece. It's known for being very challenging for musicians. And if you didn't know, most auditions for orchestras, they actually use Don Juan as like a repertoire piece. It's like a standard piece that if you can play this well, it's kind of a prerequisite to get into orchestra.
All right, we know that you at very least have a chance.
Yeah, just because it's so technical and so powerful moving, it really showcases technique and style and all sorts of things. So it's really kind of a cool fun fact for Don Juan, but we're really excited to bringing it back to the stage. And then we also have paired two really other cool pieces. The second piece that will be performed tonight is called Umoja, which is Swahili for unity. And
I knew that.
Yes. And it is actually a modern work made by a female composer named Valerie Coleman. And it's an absolutely stunning piece of work. And she kind of adapted it. She's a flutist herself, and so she adapted it to an orchestra and just was a really amazing, moving piece. And so Kyle was really excited to add it to our list this year. And then, of course, we can't do a concert mostly without a guest artist. And this time we are having Vitaly Starikov, who is the 2025 silver medalist for the Van Cliburn competition. So if you don't know what the Van Cliburn competition, it's like the...
That I don't. I know the Swahili, which I can read. I can't speak it, but I don't know.
It is kind of the big granddaddy piano competition. It's huge. Van Cliburn was a very well-known pianist, and he created this competition, and it's something that's like everyone around the world who plays piano knows the Van Cliburn competition. So we're really excited to have this year's silver medalist join us, and he will actually be playing Tchaikovsky's piano concerto.
Okay.
And fun fact, Van Cliburn himself actually played the same concerto with us in the 70s.
Okay.
So kind of coming all together legacy of this piece, and we're
Full
really
circle,
excited to have
as
it.
they say.
So yeah.
So here's a question, which is based completely out of ignorance.
Yes.
So Don Juan, I know last time you were on, we talked about, I remember a movie that, had the storyline or something. So is this story, like, was there a storyline? Was this a story and then music came along, or was the story written later with music, or am I out of, I'm like really blind on this one.
It's more knowledgeable than me, but I believe it is based on a tone poem.
Okay.
So, and then
which is
created.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So, but it's a really cool piece, and I'm guaranteed you've heard this music in other places. So it's going to be a really fantastic evening to open up our season.
Behind the Baton?
Absolutely. We have our first Behind the Baton actually tonight at First and Calvary at 5:30. It's free. We'll have Vitaly there, and you'll be able to get a kind of behind-the-scenes look of how his career and how he came to where he is today, and then hear a little bit more about the music.
Excellent. And season passes?
Yes, you can still get your season tickets. We open those up all year long. So you have your full season tickets to get you all 9 concerts, your classicals if you like the traditional, and then if you like our pops class shows, then you can get just the pops themselves. So it's going to be a really great season no matter what season pass you get.
And not to get ahead of ourselves, but John Williams.
Yes, next month. Actually, it's almost like, 2-3 weeks now? It's kind of coming up real quick.
Good time to get season passes.
Yes, so our music of John Williams is going to be a sellout. So if you want to get your tickets now, I would go for it.
Have you seen that? It's a video of some kid who, I don't know, I guess he evidently knew where John Williams lived, and he set up outside his house playing, I'm guessing some stringed instrument. I don't even remember what the instrument was, of some of his music. And he came out of the house in order to talk to the kid.
Oh, that's wonderful. I haven't seen that. I'll have to look that up for sure.
Came across that. That's how it played out in my mind.
Yeah.
I could be totally wrong. I'll search for it forever and be like, what was I thinking about? Was that a dream I had? Tickets, people, website, they can stop by the box office, which is open during the day.
Yes, you can always purchase online at springfieldmosymphony.org or Hammond's Hall, and you can go to their box office or online and get tickets there as well.
Are we tomorrow given some...
Yes,
Okay.
out at Scramblers.
Yeah, so we'll announce a way for some of you, if you want to grab a pair, that will gift them to you. So be listening for that. Caitlin Pack, it's always great to see you.
Always great. Thank you.
Yes, wonderful performance, wonderful weekend, and we shall see you before John Williams. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers.
Thank you. Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. Summer is wrapping up and fall will be here soon. You can already feel it in the early morning or late evening. That's why right now is the perfect time to make sure both your AC and your furnace are ready to handle the season change. Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air, they've got you covered with expert service for both systems. From tune-ups to service repairs to new unit installs, the Foreman team, they can help you with all of your HVAC needs. And if you are a person who suffers from allergies, they do indoor air quality testing, and they can help you reduce allergens and just get you breathing a little easier this fall. So if it is time to have the Foreman team out to your home, reach out to Russell today. You can find all of the contact information for Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
We mentioned there was a press conference just a bit ago, 10, 15 minutes or so, and a number of revelations came to light regarding the search for the assassin of free speech advocate Charlie Kirk. And one of those was that the firearm has been found, and that they do have evidence in the way of a footprint and a palm print and an arm print, which
They said the forearm.
The forearm,
imprint.
which I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
Palm print, you can look at your palms and you can get, it's just part of your fingerprints. But the forearm, I don't really know how that works. Well, DNA maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is. It's a DNA situation. Maybe there's something else to it. I just don't know for sure. Yeah, we've talked about it for the vast majority of the program, and I do believe that this is hitting a lot of people differently than past violence against conservatives, and whether that's Trump or the attempt to assassinate Kavanaugh or all of the Republican lawmakers on the softball field that day, or just even young, white Christian children that get targeted. And I think because so many people, young people in particular, really appreciated Charlie Kirk because he made a tremendous amount of difference. But because when you look at, you look at, not that you agree with it, but if somebody tries to kill a president, you can sometimes identify, well, they did these things, right? And that person did not like these things. So they passed this law, or they did that, or they were convinced that sometimes they're delusional, but there are these definable actions that they did not agree with, that either that target actually did or didn't do. Well, let's use the CEO of that healthcare company. The belief was that this individual needed to be assassinated because he was responsible for people not receiving coverage of certain, drugs and surgeries that were needed in order to extend that person's life. And so whether one agrees with it or not, there's an identifiable thing. It's like, what did Charlie Kirk do? It really get to the point where a person's beliefs warrant their assassination? Well, he believed this or he thought that. That is where the left is in this country? That if they disagree with you, they believe it is warranted to take you out? In terms of action outside of belief, he's just invited people with different perspectives. That would be primarily people on the left to have their voice heard, to use his platform. Now, of course, he would disagree with them. This was the point. And if people on the left weren't so incapable of logic, they would understand Charlie Kirk would be good for you. It is like somebody who wants to become a better boxer. What do? You learn to spar. You will never become a better boxer unless you get in the ring and you box someone. That's how you get better at it. And so And Charlie Kirk understood that. By the way, our founders did as well. This was part of the reason that they believed so firmly in the need to have the ability to speak freely about anything and everything without fear of, death, among other things. Because of the recognition that that's the only way you get better as a culture and as a society. People willing to discuss their ideas. People who, not the same ideas, that's just redundant. What's the point in that? What do you get out of that? But to level up, if you will, to improve, it is to take people who have competing ideas as to which step forward is going to be the best and to hash it out and to have an audience of people to listen, to hear the different ideas. Now, ideally, if a person is on the losing end of the idea, they would acknowledge that and use that to their own benefit, to be more knowledgeable, to be more advanced in knowledge. Harold Ford Jr. was relaying this story that I thought was really a fantastic way of doing these things. And he talked about how he was the president when he was in high school, I believe, in D.C., and he was the president of some liberal club, and he was buddies with the president of the conservative. It was like student government, and there was everybody was on his side. And after certain events, his dad would take he and his friends, like these in this government club or whatever, out to dinner. And he said that they would have sort of structured debates. He said that one of the rules, however, was that when you would go back and forth, point by point, when your point was proven incorrect by an argument, you didn't give up. You conceded. You acknowledged, you know what, actually you're right. And that is virtually gone today. The art of discussion, the art of debate, and the recognition that really, in the end, the point isn't to prove that you're right. It is to be sparring with someone else who, in the end, one of the two of you is going to end up better than you were before. Because you will learn something that you didn't know before, or you will hone your opinion on something because somebody put an argument before you in a way that you hadn't thought before, and you go, huh. It's like, again, to use the analogy of in a boxing ring, if you come up against someone and you lose and you figure out why you lost, you can just deny it and claim that the other person is a bad person, or as a boxer who loses in a sparring match, recognize, what did they do better than I did? How were they right and I was wrong? How was it that what technique did they use? And how can I use that? Learning from that. And so while I think a lot of people felt as if, and generally, and you would hear it because they would express it, people on the left, that Charlie Kirk just did this to make people look stupid. Or he would constantly point out, listen, I didn't even go to college. I think he was a college dropout. You all are actually, ideally you should have the upper hand here. But he didn't do it to make people look stupid. And he didn't even do it to try and prove he was right, though in the context of a debate, that's what you're doing. It was the larger understanding that when you compete with ideas and spar with one another, you end up getting closer to the truth. Either one of you or both of you even, sometimes. That is what the entire concept of the university system is supposed to be. Yet there is no place, arguably, that approach is more stifled than the university systems. And we'll learn, ultimately, perhaps, hopefully, ideally, the motivation behind this person. But I suspect whatever it is, it runs counter to the idea that we should all be able to have those debates and have those discussions. And what a sad thing, because for a lot of people on the left, Charlie Kirk gave them the opportunity to have more people hear their thoughts and their ideas than they had ever had in their lives and will ever have again. And this is what gets done to them for it. And let me tell you, just in that, the news leader, Springfield news leader, should be ashamed of itself. They did a write-up on Charlie Kirk, and it wasn't about anything that I've just been talking about. It wasn't about how this guy's never held office. He never really did anything to anyone. That, he's a guy who encouraged people to debate and discuss and so forth. No, it was going back to when he went to MSU. Here's what he said, and here's why he was wrong. Just deplorable. What an embarrassment to the city of Springfield that is what their news coverage was in the news, or is in the news leader. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. It's been noted the high volume of calls for prayers from elected Democrats for Charlie Kirk, the same people that say they're sick and tired of calls for prayers, mocking people who pray, all of a sudden are pushing out there this idea of praying that this doesn't happen again. Interesting. I don't really know what that means, but I'll also say that condemning the violence is not, the problem is fueling it. And you can't say things like Senator Murphy, Democrat from Kentucky, said recently to his supporters, quote, "We're in a war right now to save this country. You have to be willing to do whatever is necessary in order to save the country." You can't say that sort of thing to your supporters and then just wipe your hands clean whenever somebody does, quote, anything necessary in order to, in their mind, save the country. Glenn Beck's coming up next. Talk with you tomorrow.